So let's talk about the billion-dollar empire that just got rocked by a $260 million scandal. Tyler Perry, the man who went from homelessness to Hollywood royalty, who built a media empire from nothing, who wrote, produced, directed, and starred his way to the top, is now facing a lawsuit that could crack the foundation of everything he's built. And it's not just about money, it's about power. It's about control, and it's about the dark undercurrent of the entertainment world finally bubbling to that surface. And here's the kicker. This lawsuit doesn't just hit Perry, it's dragging Meghan Markle and Prince Harry into the chaos. The very people who fled the royal family in search of freedom are now being pulled into one of the messiest Hollywood scandals of the year. Before we unpack this explosive situation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is unraveling fast, and you won't want to miss a single twist as Hollywood royalty collides with actual royalty. It all started with one man, Derek Dixon, a rising actor with credits on Tyler Perry's hit shows like Ruthless and The Oval. Dixon has now launched a $260 million lawsuit against Perry, claiming the producer-turned-mogul used his influence to manipulate, control, and emotionally damage him behind the scenes. According to the lawsuit, this wasn't just a toxic workplace, it was a psychological minefield, and Perry wasn't just a distant boss. He was allegedly pulling the strings directly. Dixon claims that the nightmare began back in 2019 at a studio event, when what seemed like a golden opportunity quickly morphed into something far darker. Phone numbers were exchanged, roles were offered, and a career was seemingly launched, but according to Dixon, it all came at a terrible price. He says that Perry used his power in the industry to create a coercive relationship where personal compliance dictated professional survival. In plain terms, if Dixon didn't keep Perry happy, his character was dead. Literally, Dixon's character on The Oval, Dale, was shot 4 times in a scene that allegedly wasn't just a creative decision, it was a threat. A warning: play along or disappear from the show. The message was chilling: resist, and your career gets buried with your character. Now, Tyler Perry's camp has come out swinging, denying every claim and calling the lawsuit a baseless shakedown attempt. His lawyers say this is nothing but fiction, an attack designed to smear a man who's worked his whole life to empower others. But regardless of whether these allegations hold up in court, they've already opened a floodgate of questions about unchecked power in Hollywood, and what happens when one man becomes the entire studio system. Because, make no mistake, Tyler Perry is a one-man industry. He writes, directs, produces, and acts in many of his own projects. That level of creative control is rare, almost unheard of. On paper, it's genius. But when things go wrong behind the scenes, when allegations of abuse or retaliation emerge, that same control becomes a dangerous weapon. No oversight, no accountability. Just one man calling every shot. And now, this is where things take an unexpected turn, because this lawsuit isn't staying in Hollywood. It's reaching across the Atlantic, straight into royal territory. That's right. Meghan Markle's name is being dragged into the storm because Perry isn't just a business mogul. He's the godfather of Meghan and Prince Harry's daughter. Libet. Think about that. Tyler Perry wasn't just a friend, he was family. When Meghan and Harry fled the UK during the chaos of their royal exit, it was Perry who opened the doors to his mansion. Perry who offered security and sanctuary. Perry who stood beside them when the rest of the world was tearing them apart. That kind of loyalty isn't casual, it's deeply personal. And now, that same man is facing allegations of manipulation and emotional abuse that, if proven true, could devastate not just his reputation, but Meghan's by association. The headlines are already drawing the lines. Why did Meghan choose Tyler Perry to be her daughter's godfather? What does this say about her judgment? Did she know who she was letting into her family's inner circle? And whether those questions are fair or not, they're being asked loudly, because when you're tied to the British royal family, even a whisper turns into a global scandal. And behind closed doors, sources say Harry is not taking it well. He's reportedly been growing increasingly uncomfortable with Meghan's Hollywood connections, and this latest bombshell is only confirming his worst fears. The idea that his daughter's godfather is now at the center of a lawsuit involving abuse and career manipulation. That's not just bad optics, that's a personal nightmare. Insiders claim there are now serious discussions happening about whether Perry should continue in his role as Lilibet's godfather. If true, that would be a seismic shift in their inner circle, a sign that the trust Meghan once placed in Perry is crumbling under the weight of scandal. It's not just a PR move, it's about protecting their children, their legacy, and whatever fragile piece they've managed to carve out in Montecito. And yet, critics are already calling it a pattern. Meghan, they say, has a habit of aligning herself with powerful people, who later become public liabilities. First, it was Oprah, whose interview with Meghan and Harry made headlines but later faced backlash for being heavily edited and one-sided. Then Spotify, where their multi-million-dollar deal ended abruptly with rumors of underperformance and creative disagreements. Then Netflix, where the docuseries faced accusations of being overly dramatized and thin on substance. Now, Tyler Perry. Each time, the alliance starts strong. Headlines celebrate a new deal, a new friendship, a new opportunity. But inevitably, the shine wears off. Controversy creeps in, and it's Meghan who ends up holding the bag, with critics asking whether she's more focused on power than people, more drawn to status than substance. And Harry, he's left trying to reconcile his royal roots with the chaos of celebrity culture. The man who once walked behind his mother's coffin in a silent show of royal duty is now watching his family's name trend on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. Behind the scenes, those tensions are boiling over. Sources close to the Sussexes claim that Harry has grown disillusioned with the Hollywood machine. The constant brand building, the media maneuvering, the endless dance of staying relevant. In a world that never stops watching, he didn't leave the royal family for this. He left for freedom, for peace, for the chance to protect his wife and children from the same ruthless spotlight that haunted his mother. But now, that spotlight feels even more invasive, more chaotic, and less controlled than the one they left. Behind the idea of raising his children in California was supposed to be a fresh start, a life without the rigid expectations of Buckingham Palace. But with every new scandal, every Hollywood fallout, that dream feels like it's slipping away. Because when your child's godfather is being accused of emotional abuse and coercion, when that man's name dominates headlines for all the wrong reasons, it's no longer just about privacy. It's about survival, reputationally, emotionally. And within the complex web of royal history, they try to escape. And here's where things get even more complicated. Meghan, according to insiders, isn't backing down. She's doubling down. New social media projects are in motion. A return to Instagram, a brand refresh, a push to re-establish herself as a lifestyle force, separate from the royal identity that made her famous in the first place. Meghan wants to be more than just a duchess. She wants to be a brand, a movement, a modern icon of womanhood and empowerment. But that vision comes at a cost. Harry, by contrast, is said to be uncomfortable with the new direction. He reportedly doesn't want their children plastered across social media. He's wary of their lives becoming content, and he's deeply concerned that their private world is being shaped by people like Tyler Perry, whose public image is now anything but stable. The Perry lawsuit has cracked open a fault line in their relationship, one that was already under strain. Some reports even suggest that Harry is exploring ways to reconnect with his roots in the UK. Not a full return to royal life, but a soft re-entry, attending more events, rebuilding bridges, quiet conversations with key figures. In the palace, a move that, just months ago, would have seemed unthinkable. Because, whether it's fair or not, Meghan is now seen by some royal insiders as the architect of their public missteps. And with Tyler Perry's lawsuit dominating headlines, that narrative is gaining traction. The woman who promised a new, empowered chapter for the monarchy is instead being viewed in some corners as a magnet for scandal, a risk, not a reformer. And for Harry, that perception matters. He's not just a husband or a father, he's still a Windsor, still tied by blood and duty to an institution that values discretion above all else. And when every new association threatens that legacy, the pressure to pull back, to reset, becomes overwhelming. But it's not just about Perry. It's about a bigger pattern that critics have been pointing out for months. Meghan's alliances, they argue, follow a similar trajectory. A-list figures, big headlines, strategic proximity to powerful people. But when the spotlight shifts, when those same people get caught in controversy or fade from relevance, Meghan's brand absorbs the blow. The Oprah interview, the deal collapse, the Netflix backlash. Now, the Tyler Perry lawsuit. It's a cycle that's eroding public trust, not just in Meghan, but in the entire Sussex narrative. And the media, they're eating it up. Headlines are painting Meghan as a brand builder first, a partner second, Harry as a man increasingly caught between two worlds, and Perry as the unexpected link exposing it all. It's not the fairy tale they sold the public. It's a fractured alliance now unraveling in real time, with court documents and anonymous sources serving as the new royal correspondents. And let's not ignore what this means for Perry himself. The lawsuit has already tarnished his name in ways that no press release can fix. Fans are questioning his legacy. Colleagues are keeping their distance. And insiders are quietly asking whether this signals the beginning of a much bigger reckoning in the industry, one that could append the self-made mogul. Mythes, carefully built, because while Perry has long been celebrated for breaking the mold, for being a Black creator who bypassed Hollywood's traditional gatekeepers. That same independence now looks isolating, dangerous. A system where no one can say no, even when they should. Dixon's lawsuit doesn't just challenge Perry's character. It challenges the culture around him, the silence, the obedience, the way entire productions revolve around one man's vision unchecked. And if even half of Dixon's claims are true, the implications go far beyond one lawsuit. They speak to a deeper rot in how power operates behind the scenes in Hollywood. And again, because of Perry's closeness to the Sussexes, that rot is now leaking into royal territory. Royal analysts are already warning that Meghan and Harry need to distance themselves publicly and definitively from the Perry controversy, that if they continue to stay silent, the perception of complicity will harden, that their refusal to comment could be interpreted as an endorsement, and that, in the court of public opinion, silence isn't neutral, it's damning. Some even speculate that the palace is watching this situation closely, that Harry's continued alignment with controversial figures like Perry could impact future decisions about his royal privileges, or even his children's titles. That's how high the stakes are. Because when you're a Windsor, even from a distance, your associations matter. What started as a single lawsuit is quickly spiraling into something much larger, a full-blown crisis of credibility, not just for Tyler Perry, but for everyone connected to him. And Meghan Markle, whether she likes it or not, is at the very center of that web because the truth is, Perry wasn't just a casual acquaintance or a Hollywood contact. He was the first line of defense when Meghan and Harry were at their most vulnerable. He gave them his mansion. He paid for their security. He made them feel safe when the rest of the world was turning on them. That level of support isn't something you can simply erase, it's woven into their story. And now that story is under fire. And it's not just the critics. Noticing, sponsors, partners, studios, the entire entertainment industry is quietly reassessing their relationship with the Sussexes. If Perry goes down in court, anyone tied too closely to him risks collateral damage. And that includes Meghan. That includes Harry. That includes every brand deal, every media pitch, every scripted documentary or lifestyle project with their names on it. This isn't just a bad headline, it's a brand implosion waiting to happen, and that reality is already shaping the couple's next moves. Meghan's new business plans, reportedly centered around social media, health and motherhood content, are being quietly delayed. Potential investors are said to be asking questions. Questions like, what happens if Perry gets deposed? What if more details come out? What if Meghan's judgment becomes the story, not her product? These aren't small concerns. In the influencer economy, perception is everything. And right now, Meghan's perception is slipping. Meanwhile, Harry's discomfort has turned into what some insiders are calling outright frustration. They say he's no longer just uneasy. He's actively trying to distance himself from decisions he sees as reckless. That he's become more vocal in private, questioning the people Meghan surrounds herself with, the timing of their media moves, and the future they're building for their children. He reportedly doesn't want his daughter to grow up knowing that her godfather was embroiled in a scandal this serious, and he doesn't want Archie and Lilibet's lives defined by the kinds of controversies he thought they'd escaped by leaving the palace. But Meghan, according to the same sources, sees it differently to her. The Perry situation is a storm too. Whether not a reason to retreat, she's been burned before by the British press, by the palace machine, by fair weather allies. She sees the solution not in silence but in visibility, in building something so strong, so personal, so brand-driven, that no scandal can break it. That difference in philosophy is subtle but critical, and it's the source of a growing divide between them. Some say the couple is still unified in public, but privately they're navigating to very different visions of the future. One that leans into American-style celebrity, and one that longs for the structure and subtlety of royal life. And when a scandal like this hits, that divide only widens because, make no mistake, the Perry lawsuit is now about more than just Perry. It's about influence. It's about trust. It's about the people Meghan chooses to keep close, and whether those choices reflect something deeper about her strategy or her blind spots. Critics are already compiling a list, a pattern of powerful names Meghan has aligned herself with that later faced serious backlash. Oprah, Spotify, Netflix, Perry, even some of the PR firms and handlers behind the scenes are now under scrutiny. And while some of this criticism may be unfair, the reality is that Meghan's brand is suffering from what marketers call association decay. When every name you attach yourself to ends up in the headlines for the wrong reasons, the public starts to ask, is this just bad luck, or is it something more? And Harry, he's caught in the middle. The same man who once said, the media destroyed my mother, is now watching his wife face a media storm of her own. Only this time, it's partly self-inflicted. It's not just tabloids inventing stories, it's real lawsuits, real headlines, real questions. And as much as Harry wants to shield his children from that chaos, he can't ignore the fact that Meghan's decisions are pulling them into it. Even their friends are divided. Some say Meghan is being unfairly targeted, that Perry's choices shouldn't reflect on her, that she had no way of knowing how things would unfold. Others argue that being in the public eye comes with responsibility, and that choosing the wrong people to elevate has consequences, whether you saw it coming or not. Meanwhile, palace insiders are reportedly watching all of this with a mix of relief and concern. Relief, because every scandal that hits the Sussexes makes the decision to distance them look more justified, and concern, because the more their story unravels in Hollywood, the more unpredictable their next move becomes. Because, let's face it, if the Perry situation gets worse, the fallout could be massive. Imagine if Perry's empire starts to collapse, if more people come forward, if the lawsuit uncovers internal communications, texts, messages that paint a different picture of the man Meghan once trusted with her child's spiritual future. What happens then? Do they release a statement? Cut ties? Pretend nothing happened? There's no good option, and that's the danger of proximity to power. When it goes wrong, it goes really, really wrong. The damage at this point is already being done. Tyler Perry's reputation is in jeopardy. Meghan Markle's judgment is being questioned more fiercely than ever, and Prince Harry is reportedly growing more isolated in a world he never asked to join. A lawsuit that began with one actor's shocking allegations has spiraled into a story about legacy, identity, and the very nature of trust in a world built on image. And it's more than just PR. This cuts deep, because when Perry was brought into the Sussexes' inner circle, it was framed as a lifeline, a moment of solidarity, a symbol of a new, more compassionate chapter. But now, that symbol has been shattered, and in its place, doubt, accusation, damage that no amount of brand repositioning can fully erase. The uncomfortable truth is that this isn't an isolated misstep, not anymore. Meghan's critics have been watching, waiting, and now they feel vindicated. The Spotify fallout, the Netflix mockery, the Vanity Fair interviews that age poorly, the frequent rebranding attempts. Each episode chips away at the credibility she's tried so hard to control. And Harry? He's stuck between defending his family and protecting his heritage. Reports say he's been reaching out more frequently to friends in the UK, not for royal obligations. Not yet, but to keep the door open, to stay connected. Because whether he says it publicly or not, part of him never left. Part of him still values what the monarchy represents: stability, duty, and yes, discretion. Some insiders go even further, suggesting that this Perry controversy may be the final straw. That behind the scenes, Harry has begun exploring long-term plans that could include more time in the UK, with or without Meghan, a devastating possibility, but one that reflects just how high the emotional stakes have become, because this isn't just a Hollywood scandal. This is a mirror one that reflects what happens when too many moves are made for strategy instead of sincerity. When your brand becomes your identity and your circle becomes a liability. When family, image, loyalty, and reputation collide in one unforgiving storm. As Perry's legal battle unfolds, every detail will be dissected. Every headline will be linked to Meghan. Every whisper will feed a growing narrative that the Sussexes are less about truth and more about timing. Less about empowerment and more about exposure. Less about breaking free and more about falling apart. And while Meghan may continue pushing forward, relaunching her brand, releasing new content, curating the perfect public image, the cracks beneath the surface are showing, and no amount of filters or PR consultants can patch what's been exposed. What we're witnessing isn't just the unraveling of a media alliance, it's the slow, painful breakdown of trust between partners, between public figures and their audience, and between two worlds that were never meant to coexist: royalty and fame. So where do they go from here? If Perry wins his case and clears his name, perhaps some of this fades. But if the lawsuit drags on, or worse, reveals even more disturbing details, the backlash will intensify. Meghan will be asked why she stayed silent. Harry will be asked what it says about the world he left behind, only to find himself trapped in a new kind of chaos. And the public, they'll keep watching, waiting, judging, because when you trade palaces for platforms, crowns for content, the audience doesn't disappear. It grows. This is the moment where everything is on the table. Will Meghan finally reevaluate who she trusts? Will Harry speak out? Will Perry's empire collapse under the weight of the accusations? Or will everyone involved retreat into silence, hoping the world just forgets? Unlikely, because this story, like the empire it's shaking, is far from over. If you found this video insightful, revealing, or even just thought-provoking, Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the scandals shaping today's power players. What do you think Meghan and Harry should do next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and stay watching.